Hello, beautiful people of YouTube, and welcome back for another video. As you can see, this one's a little bit different than my typical view. I decided to change it up. I'm shooting this at night. I usually have not been doing night shoots, so I put my fairy lights on in the background, aesthetically pleasing. A little bit of the city lights behind me from some of the buildings. And yes, I have a blanket on me because my apartment is cold because of the air conditioning. We're never happy. Do you realize that? Like, we're never happy whether it's like, oh, it's too hot outside. Oh, I'll get air conditioning inside, but then I'm too cold inside, but then I'm too hot outside. It's just a repetitive cycle. We're never happy. So blankets are the equalizer, the great equalizer. So today, what are we talking about? We are talking about performing in the pasture with the promise of the palace. Now, I know some of you are like, I'm sorry, what the heck did you just say? Yes, you heard me correctly. Performing in the pasture with the promise of the palace. What do I mean by that? So this is something that has been weighing on me after talking to a friend of mine, and then also analyzing like my own life, I guess, and then also hearing a sermon. So I'm getting this topic title from a story of David. And you don't have to be, a religious Christian person to understand what I'm about to say in this vlog. But the relation of the story is pretty much this. David was like the shepherd, the same David as David and the giant Goliath, for any of you wondering. Yes, same David. David was just a shepherd. He was out in the pasture every day, taking care of sheep, very like low on the societal totem pole. Like, he would never have been chosen as king by human standard. So he's in the pasture. Pretty much what happens is this prophet and judge Samuel comes and he's like, yo, I'm going to anoint you as king to follow Saul. Who was at this point king over Israel. So David did not get anointed and then go straight off to the palace in a white chariot with, a whole army behind him. Like, it wasn't glamorous at all, like his journey there. And I won't get into that. You can read it for yourself, look it up for yourself if you're curious. But pretty much what I am saying in this title, in this topic of this video, is that you can be promised the palace. In this case, David was promised to be king over Israel. So you can have the promise of this great thing in life. And for a lot of us, me specifically as well, it's not like God has whispered in my ear, like, hey, I'm going to put you in this job, or I'm going to move you to this city and you're going to do this and it's going to be great. No, I don't have any idea what is going to come for me in my life, after college within the next year. I have no idea. But I do know that I'm here on a purpose for a purpose. So that being said, even though I don't know specifically what my palace is, I know that I have one. The question and the focus that we need to think about right now, and the attitude that we need to have, is how are we performing in the pasture? So a lot of us have either found, are right now, or will find ourselves in a position that we're not the highest up on any level. We're not the most experienced. We're not the most authoritative. We are not doing maybe what we had hoped to be doing. We're maybe doing a shepherd type of job, or within even our social group, maybe you feel like you're the shepherd of your social circle. People wouldn't really care if you were there or not. Maybe that's how you feel. Oh, if I wasn't here, no one would notice. But here's the thing. How are we performing while we're in that position? Because here's the problem. God can anoint you, quote unquote, hypothetically speaking here, God anoints you to a palace, whatever that may be. And if you don't steward or obey while you're in the pasture, what makes you and or him think that you can handle the palace? Because see, with the palace, it's a greater role. It's more powerful. It's higher up, maybe in the company you're in, the job you're in. It's better, quote unquote, better by standards of, the world and everything, money-wise, like I said, position, power. But with that comes more responsibility, more stress, more of an opportunity to either do something really great or something really not great. So you might not be where you want to actually be. You might not be in the palace right now, even though you were told the palace was yours. You might not be there yet. How are you performing, and what is your attitude like while you're still in the pasture? This is something we really have to think about. You might have to do things right now that you really don't want to do. And you might be like, this is beneath me and this is below me. And I should be here at this point. Why am I still here? And it's I don't know. I don't have the answer of why you're here and not here yet. But I do believe that there is a reason. And I do believe that there is a reason that you're in the pasture position that you're in right now. And I think if a lot of us were honest, there's always been little times. I don't think this is always going to be as grand as David's story where we get anointed and we go to the palace a decade or so later. I think a lot of times in our lives, it's little pastures to little palaces, little pastures to little palaces. It's slow movements upward, up the ladder, if you will. And I think if we look back on the seasons that we were still in the pasture and we were why am I still here? I should be here. And now we're in a palace. So compared to the pasture we were in the palace. But now that we're in this palace, we want to go to that palace. So now we're back in a pasture, if that makes any sense. Hope you follow that. I think if we look though, we would realize, oh, well, I wouldn't have been ready for this a year ago. I wouldn't have known how to handle this situation or this person or this stressor in my life 2 years ago. And I think if we look at it like that, there's a reason that it's a slow progression. There's a reason why things are not always just handed to you. There's a reason why most college graduates don't graduate and then they're CEO 2 months later of a huge Fortune 100 company. There's a reason for slow progression and slow growth, because you have to steward yourself well, steward your positions well in the pasture before you can handle what's to come in the palace. And I think attitude and outlook is a really big deal here, because I would be lying if I've said that there was not days where I'm why the heck am I doing this? Why in the world am I doing this right now? I could be doing this. Why am I making this money when I could be making this money? But I'm whoa, who do you think you are, Nicole? Take a step back, humble yourself. First of all, you're living in the palace that you once prayed for in the pasture. I was praying for this a year ago, and now that I'm in it, I'm complaining. This is gearing me up for my next palace season right now. I might not understand it. I might not get it. I might not even always like it. But my attitude each and every day has to be, this is where I'm supposed to be for the time being. This is where I need to be right now to get me to where I want to be later. And if you don't have that perspective and that attitude, you will be miserable your entire life, because you will always be asking, why am I not here yet? Why did I not get that job yet? Why am I not there yet? That's exhausting. Just saying that right there, I'm like mentally already exhausted by that. And that will ruin not only you, but it's going to ruin like your relationships with other people and your outlooks on everything. Because then if you're always so focused on why you aren't there yet, when someone else gets to their palace, they come from their pasture to their palace, you're not even going to be able to be happy for them. You're not even going to be able to unselfishly celebrate them without jealousy. And I've been there. And I'll admit that I've been there, where it's been very hard for me to see someone move into their palace and I'm still in my pasture. And it was hard because I didn't have the right attitude about being in my pasture and that it's okay to be there right now. So, everyone always says, like, don't compare your chapter to someone else's book or your page to someone else's chapter. Some cheesy kind of quote like that. But honestly, it's true, because what might be in your life a pasture season as you're trying to progress into a palace, someone else might be in their palace season right now. And it's very like natural progression and degression in and out of these seasons, and everyone's is going to be on different timings. So what I want to leave you with is this. Don't be selfish. Don't be jealous of other people in your life, in your friendships, your relationships that are in their palace. Celebrate them. Honestly, be joyful with them and for them that they are finally in their palace, because they might have waited 10 years to get in their palace. You've only been waiting 8 months to get in yours. So celebrate them. The second thing I want to say is honestly evaluate your attitude. And this is going to be constant, because there's going to be days that you're going to fall right back into the same trap where you're like, why am I doing this? I hate this. What the heck is this for? What is the purpose? Do you think David liked picking up sheep crap and, having to kill wild animals to keep the sheep safe? Probably not. But everything he went through in the pasture prepared him for the palace. So I want to say, keep your eyes on the prize. If you have a palace that you have been, quote unquote, anointed for, and you know where that palace is and where you're going, keep your eye on that and steward the position you're in now well. Humble yourself now so you are able to be humble and be able to serve others later. Because humility and servitude should never go away just because you move from the pasture to the palace. So stop placing yourself on a pedestal if you're in the palace right now, even if you are a king. Don't forget that you might be back in the pasture sooner than you may think. So steward this time well. I promise you, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. I know it can be frustrating. I know it can be tiring. I know it can be draining. But I promise you that whatever you are doing now is preparing you for what you are needed for later. You guys might have seen this on some of my social media or in my bio even for this channel, but I just want to remind you guys and leave you with this closing thought that there's always a plan and always a purpose. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope this was encouraging to you, gave you guys something to think about. If you liked this content, please leave a thumbs up on my channel. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Also, as always, be sure to follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter popping up on your screen so you can keep up with everything that's going on in my life. All right, guys, I thank you so much for taking the time out to watch, and I will see you next time.